And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
Welcome back to Hack City. Joe DeLeone, Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. And today we are previewing the matchups for Week 10 of FCS football action. We got our first playoff selection ranking for the top 10. Things are heating up. And albeit maybe there's not massive implications for these games and their big premier matchups, we still have a lot to discuss with ETSU versus Mercer, which certainly has conference implications, and then Montana State versus EWU. Montana State sure going to continue their reign in the Big Sky. Sean, before we get to it, though, can you just share with the listeners a quick word from Bet Online?
Yeah, it's betting season. We are having sports equinoxes all over the place. I think a fun little game that you could do as a listener is to bet on a baseball game, a hockey game, a football game, a basketball game, and possibly a soccer game.
And if you listen
all
to Sean, you could
day.
lose every amount of money that you put down on all those bets.
I am doing a read. I don't need to be interjected by someone who shares the same correct percentage on college football picks as me, talking trash.
Don't know what you're talking about.
This season, every game matters, Joe. BetOnline has every stat, matchup breakdown, and live odds to bet on during the games. It's not just the NBA. It's not just the MLB. They got football, and it's a football show. You're betting on football. I know you're betting on football because I'm betting on football.
Stop pointing at people like
and
that.
This doofus over here is betting on football. Do it at BetOnline, all right? I'm on to you. Head up BetOnline. Head to the website today. Get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline. The game starts here.
ETSU at Mercer, the first premier matchup. This is actually, I think, the only ranked on rank that we have this week. I guess depending on which poll you subscribe to, which church that you go to, maybe that impacts which ranking and if this is the only ranked on rank matchup. But this still has big implications. Mercer dealing with some quarterback injury issues that they're trying to navigate. It does not sound like they're going to be getting an answer before this game kicks off. Very hard to track, by the way. I tried to dig into this and figure out who's healthy, who's ready to go. And guess what? The most recent article was a month ago. So love that. Absolutely love that. Outside of that, of course, ETSU has been an interesting team so far. They had that great game against North Dakota State at the start of the year. The fantastic story is they battled through the crazy storm to beat the Citadel. They're running the ball very well. Bryson Irby and Jalen King, running back QB combo, both over 400 yards rushing this year, 5 touchdowns, and their defense has been fantastic. They have 22 team sacks, Sean. They're only allowing 30% conversion rate on third down. There's a physical team going up against a very physical team as well in Mercer.
Yeah, aside from it being a great story, the galvanizing point, regardless, bringing the team together in that Citadel win through the storm. They've been 2-1 since. They lost a tough one to Chattanooga, but they handled Samford, who we know has the minerals, and they handled Wofford, who is also who's
what
been
minerals?
solid.
I'm sorry, I was not ready for that. What do you mean?
The minerals. It says.
Is that a saying?
Yeah, it's a British saying. The minerals. You got the guts. You got the balls. You have it. But
this is an American show.
I understand it's an American show.
This is an American show.
Pardon me for trying to pipe in some culture. God, I'm watching too many British movies. It is what it is. I gotta watch.
Are you watching too many Peaky Blinders clips on YouTube?
I know. Peaky Blinders has not been a YouTube show yet. Okay. I think that could be a full run through. I've heard.
I don't. That one's got YouTube clips written all over it.
I've heard it's very mumbly and dark though. Which
perfect because you just skip over the useless crap and then you.
I
just
don't
jump
like.
right.
I like the. I like.
No.
I'm a child. I need something bright. I need some people yelling. I need to be. I don't want to watch a show with subtitles on all the time.
Get the clips out of order at only the high action points. That is how you watch a show like Peaky Blinders.
All right, I know everything about Suits now. Everything that there is to know.
That easy show to watch. You literally could boil it down to the first 3 minutes and the last 3 minutes, and the show's over. All right, we're talking. We're talking about this football.
But ETSU, They've really come together. They've had a very good season, and you nailed it. It's their running game. That's their best asset. Jalen King, 2 interceptions last week. It's not great, but what he does in the run game is fantastic. His touchdown to interception ratio on the air, it's not great.
Yeah,
but
53% completion percentage has been a bit rough. They're not going to win by airing this Mercer team out.
Right, but if he can complete some passes, if they can do okay on third downs, and you can have the threat of handing it off to a very good running back in Irby or Jalen King, both with 5 touchdowns on the year, that's great. I like it. I like what they're doing. The defense has stayed solid. They don't give up a ton of points. They're not the world beater defense, but they're doing good. So I think that it is a team that can challenge anybody. They're not third in the Southern for no reason. The Southern Conference has been better this year. They're solid. So I'm going into this game with, if I'm Mercer, with a baseline level of high respect for ETSU.
The respect is warranted because of how effectively they've battled through adversity. But I think, albeit Mercer has had a couple of rough goes recently, they're still very dominant defensively. There was that one black mark on their schedule where they gave up, 50-something points?
55 to Samford.
Which was so out of nowhere, and a lot of it was just bad turnover luck from my understanding. I think that there is something to be said stepping into a situation where your defense is only allowing 61 rush yards per game and 2.1 yards per carry. 28 team sacks. They are arguably the best defense in the country. If it wasn't for that random out-of-nowhere Samford game, we'd be talking about them as a top 4 team. It's such a weird thing to wrap our heads around, that they had such a high and then such a low, and they're trying to climb back up to that steadiness. I am going to roll with the team with the stout defense going up against the team with the good rushing attack. The defense has to show up in a situation like this.
Here's what I'll give credit for Mercer for doing. After that loss, they gave up 55 points and only scored 35. And then the next week, they play a better opponent in Western Carolina. They score 44, near 10 more than last week, and they only give up 34, 20 less than the previous week. So they made some adjustments. And what did they do, Sean? How did they do so well against Western Carolina? And we know their offense is super potent, and Heath keeps on tagging me in fat stats for Cole Gonzalez. How could they beat them? Their defense just got blown out by Samford. Well, they ran the hell out of the rock, and they found out that DeWayne McGee is the guy they should be handing it off to more. He only had 18 carries last week. I'm sure you heard it on fat stats. 18 carries, though. 223 yards and 2 touchdowns, 12.4 yards a carry. If you told me my starting running back was going to average half of that at 6.2 yards per carry, I'd say that team is just going to win. That is a clip that I am so confident in, that they're just going to win. And if you're doubling that, then you're in for a long day. He's a legit running back. Other running backs of the team did great also. No one's really championing the defense for Western Carolina. But to come out of that game against Samford, bounce back, it tells me a lot that this Mercer team, which we have recognized in previous years, has had good starts and then faltered and then fallen off. And they're only 9 wins going into the playoffs, 1 and out. This year, it feels a little bit different. It feels like they're coming to play, and they're one of these teams that is trying to take themselves seriously, take the next step. And honestly, ETSU going against this defense, I'm saying we got to do some trickery. We have to get creative. We can't just do baseline offensive stuff to get by them. It's not going to be possible. You have to get uber creative, try to catch them all. I don't rally and I don't advocate for fake punts. I don't do it for fake field goals. You're going to have to crack one open. You're going to have to try to get into that trick playbook, maybe a double pass, figure it out to just get a nice cheap score against this Mercer team that is so stingy.
Quick shout to 2 stout players in the Mercer team that have been fantastic this year. Braden Manley, who's got 10.5 tackles for loss and 6 sacks. And then Adam Zock, who's a freshman, 250-pound defensive lineman, has 8.5 tackles for loss and 5.5 sacks. I'm sure that he is going to, if he continues on this trajectory, play himself into a Jerry Rice finalist position, because those are phenomenal numbers for a defensive lineman on a pretty stout Mercer defense. Sean, I know you're juiced up to talk about some Montana State. It feels like we have not had many opportunities to talk about the Bobcats for previews. We do a lot of recaps on them when they have big games and big performances, and we talked about them going into the Idaho game, and they stomped them out. I don't think anything's going to change here with EWU. EWU has been a live opponent. They've been a team that, like, quite literally they have a pulse. You know, they're alive. I'm not saying that they're a live threat. No, they happen to be competitive in some of the games that they've played. It's still not a team that you can completely overlook. We know what this Montana State team is. We know what Scottrey, Humphrey, and Malott. We know what this rushing attack is. This game does not require super uber in-depth analysis because, again, we're kind of short on big matchups. But Montana State, though, this is one of their few tests that we have this season of a competitive opponent.
Yeah, they're still the number one scoring offense. They're still in the top 10 in scoring defense. They're still in top 10 in third down conversion on offense. I think they're like fifth in that, and third down conversion allowed in defense, top 10 in that. They're just a stellar team. Top to bottom, they're a really good team. All the hate or praise that I've received for acknowledging Montana State as a top 2 team in the FCS this year, I think has been vindicated either way that you see it. They're just so solid. They don't make the crazy mistakes. They don't turn the ball over a ton. They run the rock. They just beat you. But EWU presents a weird challenge. Joe called them alive. I'd call them a little sneaky. I think they're a bit of a pest this year. We've seen them really push some other teams to their limits. And I know they'd love to sneak away with one. And we're not talking about Montana State because it's all been blowouts. But you can't sleepwalk past EWU. They've got a good running back. They've got a good quarterback. Eftham Chisholm III, you have to cover him. They have guys that you have to take account for. When you're in the meeting in defense, you're hoping that the scout team throughout the week is giving you a good look against these guys. Because if they're not, and you're taking them lightly, they're going to have 200 yards rushing. They're going to have 300 yards passing. They're going to score touchdowns, and it's just going to be an EWU shootout. That is their ball. That's what they love doing. They love just, hey, we're going to start scoring touchdowns against you. You can't stop it, and now you're going to have to keep up at that clip. The positive thing, Montana State kind of does do that.
The one game that we can point to that maybe opens the picture of why this game could be close and also could be just a compelling shootout type game is the Montana performance, where we talked about that game being bonkers and wild, and we remember Montana won 52-49 back in September. I don't think, though, that's going to happen, because the difference between Montana and Montana State is that Montana State has a far stouter defense than Montana does at the current moment. They're going to be able to put up a far more competitive matchup against Chisholm and company. I don't think, excuse me, being sick has been brutal to try to get through. Nothing but talking for, never mind. We almost made it without having to lose the sentence I was trying to say.
What about your cognitive clarity?
That's always non-existent. What I was trying to say is I don't envision this being a close shootout. As fun and as scrappy as they've been, they do not present a real challenge to Montana State. Of course, I'm going to say that, and that's the kiss of death, and then they're going to win, and then we're going to be getting yelled at. But Montana State has nothing to worry about.
That is an even crazier shout than the previous kiss of death. Nothing to worry about. No, they're
going to win by 100.
There's
a guaranteed 1,000% chance that they win this football game. There's zero chance that they lose. Put this in the hype video.
They have some things to worry about. Again, EWU very scrappy. That has proven to be a good litmus test for the rest of the FCS that actually wants to be a serious team in the top 10.
I had it pulled up 1 second. I just want to look at Montana State's schedule, because upcoming, they really have
their last big game is going to be against Montana. That is the last thing that they're going to have to get by.
I want to expound upon what we were saying a second ago, or I was saying a second ago, because they haven't really the only real tough matchup that we've willingly been able to preview was the Idaho game. And after Eastern Washington, they've got Sac State, which has turned into a completely nothing opponent. And then they wrap the season with UC Davis and Montana. So I would just like to push this in there, Montana State fans, because more of a narrative, less talking about this upcoming game that you're probably going to win. I do wonder if you don't finish out with a pretty light resume, if you lose one of these games, how far does that drop you in the seeding? I don't think it removes them completely from it. That is 1,000. That's definitely not going to happen. They're not going to completely drop from the seeding because we've got teams like Mercer that have a weird, ugly, bad loss, and the playoff selection committee has put them in the top 10.
Yeah.
If you lose, say, the game to UC Davis, I think they get back against Montana this year at home. How far would you drop them and would you move them if that theoretically happened?
They don't move out of the top 5 for me, I don't think. But I think if they do beat UC Davis and they do beat Montana to close out the year, that's enough for me to joist them back up to number 1. I know that if we're talking strictly resume,
I wouldn't put them.
If UC Davis was any weaker,
if North Dakota State finishes and closes out the year, I'm not putting Montana State over North Dakota State with the impressive resume that they've put together.
I know, and there's and I've found no reason right now to have anything that could discourage me from putting Montana State or any of their wins to be more valuable than North Dakota State's win over South Dakota State. It's just not in my mind. I said all year it's going to take a crazy win from either South Dakota State, North Dakota State in the marker game, or a crazy loss from Montana State to have them not at number 1 for me. But UC Davis has been so strong. They've been a top 5 team in my opinion. And if Montana keeps on stringing off wins, then they're going to be a top 10 team. You go back-to-back top 10 victories. Hypothetically, I think that could be enough for me to put them back up there because the offense is just phenomenal. And the defense is really solid also.
Parallel thought on that for Montana's case. If we're projecting here that we think Montana State beats Montana at home, and it kind of seems like it's always one of those games where the team who's hosting tends to win. And then especially in a year where Montana is dealing with some of their defensive woes, where they're not the same level of stout on defense as they were last year. Do you think a 2-loss Montana team bumps out of the playoff seeding? I say no if the game is close against Montana State. I don't think that they would get blown out, but if that did happen, that might be enough to push them. Just the better question is who do you put in there that's got a more convincing resume? Maybe
we've said it all.
CAA winner, whoever is Stony Brook or Rhode Island, whoever wins the CAA.
Yeah, I don't know that Montana. This Montana team this year, their schedule and resume has been vastly different than last year when I'll say some of the incidents were happening with the rankings for them. It's different. They didn't have a bunch of fluky, crazy stuff happening. I think they are a competent team. I think that the defense has had to look itself in the mirror more this season, opposed to an offense that just couldn't get anything done. There's tons of potential for them. I'm not worried about a 2-win or a 2-loss Montana in the least. I think they're exciting and good for the playoffs. And I don't know how you still feel about making your polls. 20-25 is still a complete toss-up. And I'm waiting for a couple teams from 15-20 or 15 through 19 to start, dropping, to just show who they really are, a la William & Mary. We knew a William & Mary shoe drop was going to happen. I didn't expect it to. Yeah, I'm
what is it, sorry, I'm distracted. We got the World Series on while we're taping this. Little kid wearing Yankee shits cheering for Freddie Freeman, who just got a what?
Freddie Freeman's just.
Did you ban those 2 fans who are heroes for knocking the ball out of Mookie Betts?
Yeah, they are not heroes.
Send that kid home.
Don't
ban him for life. Get him out of here.
Freddie Freeman is an American hero and has become the fate. I wonder why my voice hurts so much. I wonder why I'm constantly coughing.
Yeah.
You're screaming.
Good broadcasters scream.
Can't believe Shohei struck out with the bases loaded.
All right, let's get to FC estimates here. Harvard versus the current standings.
Go
both
ahead.
went 7-10. Sean tried to cheat, tried to pull a fast one past me by changing the standings. 54 for 80, and Sean is 50 for 80. We've got a lot of disagreements this week. Your boy is going to go 10 for 10. Harvard versus Dartmouth.
I like a lot of your voices. That one of my
Harvard.
It's Dartmouth.
I'm going to go with Dartmouth as well. Towson, can you do a Baltimore accent?
Hey there, boy. We got Towson versus Richmond. That's how they speak.
I feel like there'd be a little more O emphasis on Towson, like
Towson. Towson.
What's that? There's that one word that they say that sounds so weird.
The Avenue.
No, it's not that one.
It's the UE turns into oo.
I swear sometimes Dummy in the locker room, I thought he was speaking to me in another language. One of our teammates from Baltimore. The funny thing is we had multiple teammates from Baltimore. All of them, not from like vastly different parts of Baltimore or in Maryland in general. They spoke like everybody else did and like you did from Virginia. But we had one player who was just the most Baltimore person you've ever met.
There's hey dummy, it's like he's pulled out of the wire. It was incredible, but yeah, there's some country, there's some hick accent in Maryland, and there's obviously
it's the most non-hick part of the country.
Yeah, I know, but like you get in the Glen Burnie area. Jesus, how are we still on this?
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I'm going. Give me Richmond. Give me the Spiders. Chattanooga versus Western Carolina.
I'm gonna go with Chattanooga in this one.
Man, you just hate Heath.
I don't hate Heath.
You hate Heath.
Heath has skyrocketed in my FCS listener like power rankings. Not just because the hat. It just
By the way, the B Team Jackrabbit Illustrated gang need to be recognized for that god awful bit that they did with the AI.
The JIAI.
Yeah. Why am I an Asian child wearing a Harry Potter costume? And why are you a large hairy man?
Why am I that? It's just, I hate to give Joe credit, but when he was making those, when you were making those disgusting AI generations of this show, it very detailed. It at least picked up the tone of the show in your eyes. It wasn't just kind of.
It was extremely accurate.
It was not extremely accurate. I
was also very descriptive. So what I was writing into it was then spitting around, like it was spitting out exactly what I was asking for. Sean's profile picture, contact image on my phone is still here. Wait, let me show the camera really quick.
Make sure not to show any of those texts if you're showing the camera.
It is.
Would it be easier if I called you? So stupid.
It's still the big fat guy with the sunglasses crying, and then your profile picture you can't see is an even fatter man with a bunch of like a Game of Thrones style seat. What were we talking about? We were talking about that. Yeah, you got to put in some more descriptive words. I want to redo. I want you guys to try harder.
I would like a redo. You can do it. Put it in the brackets. Emphasize obese or emphasize, nerd glasses.
Stunning.
Whatever.
Chiseled.
Whatever.
Handsome.
Forgot that you had pecs on your pecs in those AI generated images.
Yeah, I couldn't have been more accurately depicted. All right, let's move on to this next game. ETSU. I picked Western Carolina, by the way. ETSU versus Mercer. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Mercer.
Give me the orange team, the Fighting Orange Mercer. Let's just go with that being it's their new mascot. Sela versus Lamar. Lamar.
You fool! You're picking Lamar. Bad move.
Sela stinks.
Sela's good. They're good.
Stinks.
What are you kidding me?
They haven't done anything.
Their running back is, I think, like top 5 in the nation in rush yards.
You love bad teams.
You're picking Lamar.
Lamar. I'm picking Lamar because of Lamar Odom. They're going to dunk all over them. Lamar Jackson's going to throw all over them. Sela ain't got shit. All right, Stephen F. Austin versus Nichols.
I'm going with Nichols.
Give me the Lumberjacks. Youngstown State versus Illinois State.
I'm going back-to-back for the Penguins, Youngstown State.
Bad pick. Illinois State. Give me the Redbirds. I was trying to remember what their mascot was. I was trying to come. I missed the bit where I would make up random mascots for these teams. Campbell versus Elon. I'm not as creative as they used to be.
I'm going with Campbell.
Give me Elon as well. I was going to make an Elon. Yeah, we're really having a tough go here. We're just late night recording. Montana State versus EWU.
Montana State.
Bobcats. And then Sean, I was going to gripe for you putting URI in here again, but every time we pick them, they win. URI versus Monmouth.
It's going to catch up to us.
Who are you taking?
I'm going with Rhodey.
I'm taking. You're a big Monmouth guy. Should I take Monmouth? Big South Jersey Shore guy, apparently, with the way that you were hyping him up.
Derek Robertson's a good quarterback.
You're going around telling everybody in the Rhode Island equipment room.
I'm keeping them.
Monmouth's going to win a national championship. They're going to go on a run. That was the words out of Sean's mouth.
I was telling them
everybody
Monmouth has a good offense. That's a crazy shout.
All right, give me Rhodey. Give me Rhodey as well. At Joe DeLeone, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod. Hackbag, if you want to send us a question on the Hackbag voicemail, 201-834-4308. We'll talk to you folks later. Enjoy the rest of your week.